Hey, it's Joshua, Room 18, in a brand new wing, the last movement of the whole map. We have built systems, kept them standing, and locked them down. Now we face the one constraint that governs every single decision you will ever make. Not does it work, not does it survive, but what does it cost? And this first room is the idea the entire cloud is built on.
You are throwing a wedding, 300 guests, one night, one unforgettable evening. And nobody on this earth responds to that by building a ballroom. You rent one for the evening and you hand back the keys in the morning. It is so obvious it sounds like a joke, and yet that is exactly what companies did with computers for 40 straight years. They built the ballroom. They bought enough servers for their busiest possible moment, and then they let it sit 90% empty 90% of the time. This is a new wing and the last one of the journey. It is about the quiet constraint underneath every choice you make: money. What a system costs to run is not a footnote. It is, very often, the entire decision. So hold the two choices in your hands. Build the ballroom. You own it, it is always there. And you have paid for 300 guests worth of space that on every ordinary day holds 8 people. The lights, the heat, the upkeep, all running all the time for a room that is almost always nearly empty. Or rent the ballroom. You pay for the one night you actually fill it, and you pay nothing at all on the 300 nights that you do not. And owning for the peak has a brutal, hidden arithmetic. You cannot size for your average day. If you did, you would simply collapse on the busy one. So you are forced to size for the peak. The holiday rush, the viral moment, the once-a-quarter stampede that arrives and then vanishes. Which means the entire gap between your peak and your average is pure waste. Capacity you bought, power you burn, money you spend just to sit idle, waiting for a busy hour that comes once a season. The bigger your spikes, the more of your spending is simply air. And the whole economic trick of the cloud is to let you rent the ballroom. Capacity becomes a thing you turn on the very moment load arrives, and turn off the moment it leaves. And you are billed only for what you actually used, by the hour, by the minute, by the single request. So the waste between peak and average is not carefully managed. It is simply deleted. Because you never paid for the empty room in the first place. Own nothing for the spike. Rent it, use it, and then release it. Here's the keeper. Do not own capacity for your peak. Rent it for your need. Pay for what you use, size to your demand and not to your worst case, and release whatever sits idle, because the gap between your peak and your average is pure waste. The empty room you do not pay for is the cheapest room there will ever be. The labels are the stickers. Pay as you go, elasticity, capital expense versus operating expense, utilization. In the cloud, this is the entire pitch. On-demand pricing, auto-scaling that quietly releases the instances you are not using, and serverless, which bills you per request and costs you exactly nothing when the traffic is zero. It is the same elasticity from the resilience wing, read this time as a bill. 2 ways to hold capacity. Own for the peak. Your capacity is fixed and paid for whether you use it or not. You eat the waste of every idle hour, and you still fall over if a spike ever beats your guess. Or rent for the need. Capacity flexes with the load. You pay only for what you draw, and the idle hours cost you nothing. The catch, and there is always a catch, is that the per hour rental rate is higher than the per hour cost of a thing you own outright, which sets up the very next room. So the exam shows the symptom, traffic that is spiky and unpredictable, and the goal is to minimize cost, elastic, on-demand capacity that scales down to near zero, auto-scaling, or serverless. A batch job that runs for 2 hours once a month? You would be insane to run a server day and night for it. Pay only for those 2 hours. The tell is always idle time. The more a thing sits unused, the more renting beats owning. Spiky and intermittent is the cloud's home turf.
Your turn. Out loud or just in your head. I'll wait. A team provisions a fleet of servers big enough for their Black Friday peak. And then they run that very same fleet at full size all year long. 11 months out of 12, it sits about 80% idle. What is that waste called, and what is the fix, in a single phrase?
They are paying for peak capacity all year round. That idle 80% is pure waste. They built the ballroom for one night, and they pay for it every single night. And the fix is elastic, pay-as-you-go capacity. Scale up for Black Friday, scale back down or nearly to zero for the rest of the year, and pay only for what you actually use. Rent the ballroom for the wedding. Do not build it. So renting beats owning whenever things sit idle. But I just admitted the sting. The walk-up rental rate is the most expensive way there is to buy an hour. The hotel charges more for the room you book tonight than for the one you commit to for a year. So what if your need is not spiky at all? What if some of it is steady, predictable, always on? The next room is about paying less by being willing to promise more. One breath to seal it. Do not build the ballroom for the one big night. Rent it. Pay for what you use, size to your demand and not your peak, and release whatever is idle. The gap between your peak and your average is money you simply do not have to spend. Own nothing you can rent for the moment you need it.
That is, pay as you go, and it opens the last movement of the map. Cost. Rent the ballroom. Don't build it. 18 rooms down. I'm Joshua. I'll see you in the next one.